Hi everyone and welcome on my channel. My name is Daniel and you're on the Daniel Life. Today I will show you how to use the Insta360 X4 Air, a brand new camera from this company. In the past I did already quite a long tutorial about this camera here, which is the Insta360 X5. So if this tutorial is too short for you, watch my tutorial about the X5, which is a bit longer with different examples. I will show you how to connect this camera to your phone, how to do firmware updates, how to go into video mode, how to take a photo, a time lapse, and so on. Now let's get started. So everyone, let's get started with the camera. So here's the compartment, and in this compartment you have a slot for the micro SD card. The colored side needs to face inwards, while the side with the pins needs to face outwards. Then I put in the card. Here's the battery. I place the battery into the camera, and I will do it now incorrectly. So 1 second. So now it's inserted incorrectly. You can't see any orange color here, but you do see some orange color here. If you have that state, the camera is not waterproof. So make sure that you don't see any orange signs. On this side you have the USB-C port where you can charge the camera with a power bank or with your car or computer, and you can also transfer the files. So once you have connected the camera to your computer, it says transferring data, just select that and that's it. To turn on the camera, I simply need to push the power button right here for about 2 seconds. And if you would like to turn off the camera, push this button here once again. So everyone, let's get started by showing you the Insta360 app, which is available for Android and iOS. It's for free. You can do firmware updates, you can do remote controlling of your camera, and you can do all the editing using this app. So I can highly recommend it. Make sure to turn on your camera. As you can see, my camera is now turned on. Make sure to enable Wi-Fi and Bluetooth so that the camera and the smartphone can find each other. Then you click on the Insta360 app, and usually when you do that for the first time, it will ask you for a firmware update. Make sure to do so. It will take you about 5 to 10 minutes. Then there will be a pop-up on your camera which will ask you if you want to have a connection established between your phone and your camera. That's it. If there's any firmware update and you don't get the pop-up, you can do the firmware update by clicking here on the small icon and then on firmware. Then if you scroll down, you see something like a watermark. If you don't want to have any watermark on your video or photo, you can disable it here in this menu. If we click on this icon right here, we jump into the video mode. So, and as you can see, I can move here into every direction. That's the video mode, maximum resolution, 8K with up to 30 frames per second. A big difference compared to the X5 is that we can record in HDR in 8K. On the X5 it's only 5.7K with up to 60 frames per second. Here's the resolution. If we go to 6K, the maximum frames per second would be 50. Once again, that's 8K with 25 frames per second. Usually in Europe we take 25 frames per second. If you live in the United States, it's most of the time 30 or 60 frames per second. The more frames you use, the more fluent your video would look like. However, it takes more memory, and usually if you record videos during the night, it's more preferable to take a lower frame rate for a better result. So as I said, that's the video mode. Up here, histogram, GPS, and if I tap on this small icon right here, I have the option to use an exposure compensation. So if your video tends to be kind of overexposed, move that into the minus direction. And if you think your video is always a bit underexposed, move this slider into the plus direction. Here's the white balance. And to start a video, simply push on this button and then the camera starts to record a video in a 360-degree space. You have the remaining memory up here and the remaining battery level down here. Let's say you don't want to record in a 360-degree space, you only want that typical action view. Simply push on single lens and that's it. Here the resolution changes to 4K with maximum 60 frames per second, and you will be able now to choose if you would like to take your video horizontally, so 16:9, or in a vertical format 9:16. I'll show you how that looks like. So that's it. I can change also the camera into my direction, and as simple as that. Now you can record in a normal action view. You can change the field of view up here, so that's dewarp, linear, as you can see the lines getting now straight. And if you use ultra wide, that's the typical action view, this kind of fisheye look. You do have also a manual mode down here. I can go back on auto or manual. You can set your shutter speed, the ISO, and also the white balance. Inside that single lens mode, you do have a photo mode as well, which allows you to capture photos with maximum 14 megapixels. And if you use one of these sliders down here, that's the timer function, which is now set to 5 seconds. So if I push on the trigger button, it runs down from 5 to 0, and then the camera takes a photo with 14 megapixels. You have also a different mode that is FreeFrame video. The camera will record using its entire sensor, and later on you can choose if you would like to export that video in 9:16 or 16:9. And you do have also some more formats like 4:3, 3:4, or 1:1. Let's go to 1:1, and that gives you that typical square. Then there is me mode, a super nice mode to be honest. I don't use that quite often, but I should. So place your Insta360 X4 Air on the invisible selfie stick, use it in a 90-degree angle towards you, and then the camera is taking some scenes of you. It will ignore the selfie stick, and it looks like if someone is filming you. Loop recording, super simple. The camera limits the recording time to your desired time. So you can even leave it to no limit, 30 minutes or 1 minute. So the video does not get longer than the time you have selected down here. Let's go back into the 360-degree mode because we haven't finished here. So let's jump back to the beginning. That is Starlapse. As you can see, it's well overexposed now because the camera is using a longer shutter speed. That is super nice if you're out somewhere where you have no light and the camera is taking a nice time lapse from the night sky, and you will be able to adjust the exposure time. Down here you have also a timer, and there's also an export type, Starlapse video, start trails photos, and you can limit also the duration. Then there's a burst mode, so the camera is taking a series of shots and you can merge them later on together using third-party apps or the Insta360 Studio for Windows and macOS, or use your app. Then we do have also an interval timer. So anytime you hit these sliders right here, you have additional options to the specific mode you're in. Right here we are in interval mode. That means we can select an interval, obviously, and the camera is taking then photos in the interval you pre-selected right here. And later on you can merge these kind of photos together for a time lapse, for instance. Then there's photo mode, maximum resolution here 29 megapixels. I turned on HDR. You have also a timer right here. And then we jump to Insta360 Frame, really cool mode, which has been introduced since the Insta360 X5 came out. In this mode, as you can see, the camera is tracking me. And later on, I can export that video while the camera tracked me already without doing any post-editing in 1080p. With maximum 30 frames per second. So what the camera does, it's recording now in 6K, it exports me a 1080p video. I can choose later on if I would like to have that video in 16:9 or 9:16. Here are the frames per second, and there's no need for post-editing, and that makes this kind of mode so interesting. You have also some spinning effects right here. Now the camera is turning itself in a 360-degree space. It stops at the beginning and then it tries to reframe me. There's also the different direction, really cool effects, by the way. And if you think, well, I'm always a bit too far away, you can hit on this button and then you can adjust the field of view, and as you can see right now I'm much closer to the action. Then you got time lapse, which is self-explained. You place the camera basically on a tripod. You can select the interval, let's say 2 seconds if something happens really quick, or let's say 2 minutes if something happens really long. You hit the record button and then the camera merges all your photos together to a final video, and later on, using the app, you can tell the camera, I would like to export that video now in 9:16, 16:9, and you can add some contrast and saturation to your video. Time shift, many people don't see the difference between time shift and time lapse. So during a time lapse, the camera skips all the frames between your interval, while on a time shift, that's basically a hyperlapse. So the camera records a video and accelerates that later on. Here the resolution is fixed, 8K, 30 frames per second. You can pre-select a speed. I would just leave it in auto, and later on, depending on the situation you were in, I would accelerate it using the Insta360 app. Then you got motion ND, which kind of gives you the impression that you even walked faster. Road mode, pretty cool mode to be honest. In this mode, you can tell the camera how long it should record while you're on the road. Let's say always 30 minutes or always 45 minutes in maximum resolution 8K with, for instance, 25 frames per second. So the video will not get longer than, for instance, 30 minutes. And while you export that video, it's with a date and a timestamp. So you can never ever miss something on the road. Then you got loop recording. It's basically the same as road mode, but on a loop recording, you don't have the timestamp and the date stamp, and you can limit the recording length to, let's say, 3 minutes, 1 minute, and so on. You can go live, by the way, using one of these providers. Therefore, an internet connection is required, and you can try that out later on. You have also reframe live, in where the camera always tries to keep you in frame. But that's really nice if you try it out yourself, so make sure to connect this camera, for instance, to YouTube, Facebook, and so on. So I went already home, transferred all the files onto my computer. That is quite easy. Just connect it with a cable and say data transfer on the Insta360 screen. Just make sure to turn it on. And then you see some files like these ones here. So if I drag and drop them into the software, you can see it's just a video. If I use the info screen, that video was recorded in 4K with 25 frames per second. If I use the time and the water stamp, that's also possible. I recorded this video on the 27th of October 2025 at 15:41. If that matters to you, I can use different audio settings here with noise reduction or focus on my voice. And of course, I can adjust the brightness, I can adjust the highlights, the shadows, the contrast, black, saturation, dynamic, and the color temperature. Super easy to use in post, motion ND. Also nice feature if you walk, and that makes sense if you use a time shift video. And once you're done, hit export and then make sure to select where you would like to save that video. Make sure to use a high bitrate, minimum 150 for the best video quality. You can go up to 200. And that was just a normal video. So let's drag and drop a 360-degree video into the Insta360 Studio app. As you can see, I can just use my mouse to go through that video, and later on in post, I can set the important things in my video. So let's say this kind of scene was important to me, set a keyframe right here. Let's jump to the next scene. Let's say in this scene, I would like to show this kind of area here. I zoom in only with my mouse, so I don't use any commands on my keyboard here. I can set a keyframe right here. Let's jump to the next scene where I would like to film myself, or where I would like to view myself. Set another keyframe and then just hit the play button, which is just the space key on your keyboard. Let's see how it looks like. See, we're jumping now to the next keyframe where I wanted to show this area of the video, and then I'm jumping back to myself, and that's super easy to use. Export, and now that's a bit of different story. If you like to do what I have done with the keyframes in a different software like DaVinci, Premiere Pro or Final Cut, make sure to hit 360-degree video export, set the maximum bitrate for a better quality. If you just want to export this video now in 4K, select video, choose a high bitrate for a better quality, and then say export. That's it. Single lens mode, recording myself in 4K 25, now in 16:9, and that's once again the internal microphone here on this beautiful day in Germany. Single lens mode 4K with the maximum field of view possible, recording myself in 4K 25 in 9:16. Looks pretty good here on the screen. So everyone, we do have to take a short break here because I want to highlight some gadgets that I find quite useful. So first of all, get the lens protectors so you don't scratch your lenses. Get a spare battery and a fast writing micro SD card. If you ask me how many gigabytes, Daniel, would you take, it would be definitely 256 gigabytes. My recommendation in the video description below. Why 256 gigabytes? Because it's more than enough for most of the things you're probably gonna do. And it's not 128 gigabytes, which sometimes is not enough for me because I take quite a lot of clips using these 360-degree cameras, especially with a higher bitrate and a higher resolution. And if you're on the go, make sure to get one of these cool looking power banks. They're available in 2 different colors. You get the appropriate wall adapter. And this power bank supports 165 watts. You have 2 USB-C cables integrated into this power bank. And each cable supports 100 watts. That means you can charge the camera using quick charge, and while at the same time you can do already editing on your notebook using this power bank because it has sufficient energy to power your notebook, while at the same time you can charge your phone or tablet using the other 2 ports. And last but not least, I would definitely get the 3-meter selfie stick to be able to take scenes like these. So let's start with the video mode. Pretty simple, we're in video mode. You can see that because of this icon right here. If I tap on this, I can enable HDR. That is quite new because before it was only possible to record in 5.7K in HDR. Now I can do that in 8K as well. Here you can change the resolution, and with that you can also change the frames per second. Let me say I would like to record in 8K, 25 frames per second. The only thing I need to do is, here's the trigger button, push it. If there's anything in your video where you say that's interesting, push the flag button and then it's marked inside your video file. So you can spot this scene quite easily later on if the video is super long. To stop that video, simply push this button again. You cannot pause it, so you have to take individual clips for the scene you are in. So jumping between modes is also super simple. And if you wear gloves, you can jump between photo and video mode by using this button here on the side. So as you can see, if you're underwater or if you wear gloves, you can jump between photo and video mode. Let's jump into photo mode very quick. The maximum resolution here, 29 megapixels in 360 degrees. If you would like to take a photo in RAW, that's possible as well. The timer is activated, that's symbolized by the small icon right here. And if I would like to have a longer timer, I have to wait until it's finished processing the image. So the faster your memory card, the shorter this takes. Here's the timer. I would usually leave it to 5 seconds because if you have that camera on the invisible selfie stick, you need some time to extend it. Then you got interval photos, burst mode, Starlapse, and here the road mode. As I explained it earlier, if I tap on this icon right here, so that's the usual procedure, that's the resolution. I would leave it in 8K, 25 or 30 frames per second. But if you use this icon right here and if you tap on next, you can pre-select the looping space. So let's say I would always record for 1 hour. I can easily do that using the slider right here. And this here is depending on the memory card you have set into your Insta360. So let's say always the last 1 hour will be recorded, or let's say 58 minutes, and that takes, with the resolution we have at the moment, 82.3 gigabytes of space. And to have that timestamp, you need to swipe here on the top side and select watermark on. And then you can also tell the camera anytime it's connected to your car that it should start to record the video. And if you don't want that, you can select only charging. Then there's loop recording, TimeShift, time-lapse, and all these modes do basically the same that I just showed you before. As you can see, here is InstaFrame. It tracks me right away. And here is the slider I was talking about, that you can do all the settings that you can do in the app also here on your camera. If I would like to use a single lens, as you can see here, the maximum resolution 4K with up to 60 frames per second. I just leave it in 4K 25, and here you can select also the ratio if you would like to record your video in 16:9 or 9/16 for TikTok and Instagram, for instance. I leave that now in 16:9. Then there is FreeFrame, which shows you already what's in your frame if you would only record in vertical or in landscape mode. The maximum frames per second here, 30, and I have some more options because I can also select 4:3, 3:4, 1/1, but I would usually leave it in 16:9, and later on you can still change it inside the app. Here's the frame. By the way, if we are in video mode, you can see the lines in the background, they appear quite straight now. If you want that typical action view, so like ultra wide angle, you need to select Mega. And that's dewarp, and that's linear. So if you are recording people, I would definitely go for linear, because otherwise the faces tend to look a bit weird if you are very close to your face, for instance. Then you got photo mode, maximum resolution here, 14 megapixels in a single lens mode. And then there is this me mode once again, where you put the camera on the invisible selfie stick pointed in a 90-degree angle towards you, and then it looks if someone is filming you. If I go back into video mode and I swipe from the right side to the left side, you have the exposure compensation. So anytime you think that the video is underexposed, you need to go into the plus region. If you think it's overexposed, you go into the minus region. I rarely use these points, but they are here. There's the white balance. If I swipe from the top to the bottom, you have a rotation lock. So if you don't want to have these icons flip anytime you turn the camera, you can lock it by using this icon right here. You do have also the prompt sounds, which are set to medium. If you have placed the camera behind a window while you're recording a time-lapse, for instance, these LEDs might flash. And to avoid the flashing LED, you can switch on and off the indication light, so you don't see any reflections in your window. You have pre-recording, so the camera starts to record 30 seconds before you actually hit the record button. Then there is gesture control. So if you raise your hands, then the camera starts and stops to record a video. If you only do that with 2 fingers, it's taking a photo. You have voice control, Bluetooth to pair, for instance, a remote or the Insta360 Mic Air. You have your audio settings right here, and I will show you a small audio test in a second. And really important, quick capture. The usual way to turn on the camera is to hit this power button for 2 seconds, the camera will turn on. And usually it takes the mode you were recently in. Let's say you were taking a photo before, you switched off the camera, it will go back into photo mode. But let's say you run through the city, you see something interesting and you want to record a video instantly. Make sure to enable quick capture. Then you tell the camera beforehand what it should do when you push the trigger button. In my case, I would like to record a video in 8K, 25 frames per second, and that's it. So if I turn off the camera in the usual way to turn it back on would be to hit the power button. But right now I'm pushing only the trigger button here on the lower side. And then as you can see, the camera turns on and it starts to record a video instantly. And if I push this button again, it saves that video and then it would usually turn off, but I can avoid that by pushing on the display. Then there are general settings. So right here, screen auto sleep, auto power off, as you wish. Then we got the SD card, which you can format right here. Timecode settings, Wi-Fi settings, connect to the app. Image settings, I use H.265 with a high bitrate for a better video quality. If you need 50 or 60 Hertz, you can select it right here. I just left it in auto. And screen reader. So if you turn on the screen reader, it will read out what you have selected. Here I can change the language. A date and time will usually set automatically once connected to the app. You can reset the tutorials, reset the camera. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed watching my tutorial about this great 360-degree camera. If you have any further questions, make sure to leave a comment below. And if you actively would like to support my channel, you will find the camera, the memory card and all the accessories like an underwater housing, the power bank and the rest under a supporter link in the video description. See you next time here on The Daniel Life.